So the future of Billy Napier being head coach at Florida is more of a question of when rather than if. It was about if he was going to get fired or if he was going to make through the season. I think it's now a matter of when. After this weekend versus Texas A&M, I don't think he'll be the head coach of the Florida Gators for the 2025 season. I'm not sure he'll make it through the season, the 2024 season. So, a couple of things to think of. I think the Florida might be waiting here a little bit because of maybe some red shirts from some players. If you play in 4 games, then you lose your red shirt eligibility. So obviously there's only been 3 games, so they might be waiting to make a decision after 4 games. Or I think now some of those players won't have any red shirt availability anymore if they continue to play. But it does seem that the team has quit on him. It does seem that the Florida fan base and the Florida administration is pretty done with him. So where do they go from here? And as we saw last year, they started losing a lot of recruits. It was just mayhem at the end of the recruiting cycle last year. I think they lost like 6 or 8 blue chip recruits in like a 6-week period, 5-week period, and a couple of 5-stars in that, and high rated 4-stars in that they just lost because I think the future of Billy Napier was just written on the wall. And I don't think a lot of people are bought into the program right now. So it's really going to hurt recruiting unless you get someone in there who is a bona fide coach who has a really good track record and has probably coached in the SEC before. So it's a pretty short list. You can't really go out and get a guy who was kind of like Billy Napier before, where he was the coach at Louisiana. And I think you got to get a guy who has been around the game, been around the P4, been successful at a bigger school, to try to help bring those recruits back in and help bring Florida back to what the expectations are for that program. Those expectations are being amongst the teams, the same breath of air of Georgia, Alabama, LSU. Like those are the conversations that Florida wants to be in and realistically should be in, because they are in a hotbed in a recruiting state in Florida, and they have a lot to offer, and they're the only SEC team in Florida. So it's a big draw, and they have just not gotten the job done there. And it's just going to be interesting to see how this plays out for Florida. I don't know if it does them any favors to continue to fire him right now. They're already the first team that's available. Like they're already going to get the first person who's at the buffet line. Like everyone knows that this job is going to be open, and it's a very high class job. It's a job that's very coveted. So, interested to see where this goes. I think for the rest of the season that Florida is right there now. Vegas has them as like 4-point favorites over Mississippi State. Like they're in a very, very rough spot for their program. So they need some new lifeblood soon, but I don't know how soon they're going to get it. We'll see what happens with Billy Napier in his future. Follow Big Body Ball CFB on all socials.